Natalie Wood's death in 1981, for no clear reason, changed Robert Wagner's life forever. After 40 years, he is still having trouble remembering things, while his wife is having major health problems and his daughter is having trouble with drugs. At 94, Wagner's life is nothing like it was in his Hollywood glory years. Robert Wagner was born on February 10, 1930, in Detroit, Michigan. This is where his story starts. Their family had a safe and good life during the Great Depression because his dad, Robert Wagner Sr., was a manager at Ford Motor Company. The Wagners had a good life, while many families were having a hard time. He used to work as a phone operator before they had kids. Robert and his older sister Mary listened to radio dramas as kids and dreamed of going on exciting journeys. They thought they were the hero of the stories they heard. These thoughts were the first signs of the life he would live one day. Because of his dad's job, Robert's family moved to Los Angeles when he was 6 years old. This move changed everything for him. They made Bel Air their home, a place where there's lots of sunshine, palm trees, and lovely houses. There were movie stars and Hollywood bigwigs living nearby, and all of a sudden Robert was surrounded by the glitz and glamour of the show business. Since Robert lived close to Hollywood, it wasn't hard for him to start fantasizing about joining that world. He was very moved by the thrill of seeing the homes of great actors and being close to the action. Robert got a job as a caddy at the Bel Air Country Club when he was older. It wasn't just a way to get paid. It was his first real link to the movie business. He met a lot of Hollywood stars while carrying golf bags. One of the biggest stars at the time was Clark Gable. Gable liked Robert and thought he could do well. He decided one day to help the young caddy out by putting him in touch with people at MGM Studios. Robert saw how movies were made for the first time, which made him want to become an actor even more. Not only well-known players, though, noticed Robert. An agent named Henry Wilson saw him one night in 1949 while he was out with his parents at a restaurant in Beverly Hills. Wilson was known for discovering young artists and helping them get their start in the business, and he saw something special in Robert right away. He went up to Robert's family and offered him a chance to try out for parts in Hollywood movies. He put Wagner in touch with 20th Century Fox directors, which made a huge difference. Wagner made a deal with the company that included regular pay and acting lessons from professionals. It wasn't just about the cash. Wagner was now part of the studio's scheme for making stars. They taught him how to speak and act in public, even how to move around on the screen. They put in a lot of work to make him a main man. For Wagner, this was like star-making boot camp, and he took it all in. This was like a dream come true for Robert. That was his dream since he was a child, and now he was in the right place to make it happen. He learned how to do things by working as an extra on movie sets and told his dad about his dream. He could try, and his dad agreed. There was a catch, though. Robert only had a year to do well, or he would have to stop playing and work in the family business. This challenge made Robert want to show what he could do even more. He got his first part in a movie called The Happy Years in 1950, when he was only 20 years old. It wasn't a big deal. It was the beginning of everything, but he wasn't even given praise. The movie was about a boy who got into trouble and was sent to a strict prep school to learn how to behave. Director William Wellman chose to give Wagner the part because his dad knew him and thought he would be a good fit. He only made $37.50 for his short time on screen, which is very little compared to how much he would make later. For Wagner, though, the experience was worth a lot. On a movie set, he watched experienced players like Dean Stockwell and Leo G. Carroll work and learned how the pros did it. He would never forget that small step. It's interesting that Wagner wasn't the only newbie during those good times. Also, Dwayne Hickman, who later became famous as the lead in The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, had a small part that wasn't written down. Wagner and Hickman would laugh about how they both had small parts in the same movie when they were younger. He finally got his big break in 1953. He got a part in Titanic, a play about the sad journey of the famous ship. Wagner played Giff Rogers, a young tennis player who becomes involved with the lives of two other passengers, played by Barbara Stanwyck and Clifton Webb. The movie came out on April 16th, which was the day after the ship's sinking 41 years before. Wagner gave a great show. Someone said he was charming and had a lot of emotional depth. Likes more than just good looks. He won a Golden Globe that same year for Most Bright Newcomer. It meant a lot to Wagner because it showed that Hollywood saw him as a growing star. His pay went from $125 a week to $1,250 all of a sudden, and companies were lining up to work with him. Working with Spencer Tracy was one of the best parts of Wagner's early career. They were both in Broken Lance, 1954, a strong Western about family problems and racism. They had some of the most memorable scenes together. Wagner played Tracy's youngest kid. Tracy became Wagner's teacher and mentor, giving him tips on how to act and connect with the public. Wagner said in the future that working with Tracy changed how he did his job. They got back together for The Mountain after 2 years, a story about surviving in the French Alps. Wagner admired Tracy's hard work and professionalism, and working with her made an effect on him that will last a long time. In the mid-1950s, Wagner also played a lot of different parts, which showed how versatile he was. He played the lead role in Prince Valiant, a thrilling movie based on a well-known comic strip in 1954. For the part, Wagner had to learn how to ride a horse and fight with a sword. Besides his unique style, he had hair that became famous. The movie had a big budget, and a lot of people really liked it. Then, in 1957, he played Jesse James in a movie based on a true story. This rough Western looked at the life of a criminal in a deeper way than most action movies at the time. Wagner demanded that he do a lot of the tricks himself, including a scene where a train jumps over a bridge that almost went wrong. People liked how intense and deep his performance was, which showed that he could handle more serious parts. With his part as Alexander Mundy in the TV show It Takes a Thief in 1968, Robert Wagner began his career in television. He became a bigger star after this show, which was a turning point in his career. He played a cool and slick cat burglar who worked for the CIA. The role was a mix of spying and humor that kept people interested. 18.3 million people watched the first show, which was an ABC record at the time. Wagner's performance was so good that he was nominated for his first big TV award, a Primetime Emmy, in 1970. There were 3 seasons of the show with 66 episodes, and Wagner was in all of them, showing how dedicated he was. It Takes a Thief not only brought him back to fame, but it also raised the bar for sophisticated crime series. After It Takes a Thief was a hit, Wagner continued his career on TV with Switch in 1975. He worked with Eddie Albert in this show, and the crowd loved the pair. Pete Ryan was played by Wagner, a con artist who changed his ways and worked with Albert's character, the ex-cop, to solve crimes. For 3 seasons and 70 episodes, the show kept people amused with action and comedy. Wagner even did many of the stunts himself. In one risky helicopter scene, he dangled 2,000 feet in the air. When he became a producer for the last season of the show, he had more control over his work and more influence in the business because of this. The 1979 romantic detective show Heart to Heart was the high point of Wagner's career. It became a culture phenomenon. Together with Stephanie Powers, he played Jonathan Hart, a rich man who solved puzzles with his wife Jennifer as a hobby. There was no denying that Wagner and Powers got along. The show was an instant hit and ran for 5 seasons with 110 episodes. At its peak, 20.5 million people watched each episode on average. Wagner's performance as Jonathan Hart became famous, and he and Powers were both nominated for Golden Globes. 8 made-for-TV movies kept the show's popularity going after it finished in 1984. In the 1990s, Wagner played the part again. Behind the scenes, Wagner showed how smart he was as a businessman by negotiating a deal that gave him a cut of the show's profits. During its run, the show apparently made him over $15 million. Wagner was also in the news for the business deals he made when he wasn't acting. One of the most well-known was his deal to split profits with the hit TV show Charlie's Angels. As payment for his part in a TV movie produced by Aaron Spelling and Leonard Goldberg, Wagner got a 50% share of the money made from Charlie's Angels. Because the show was such a hit, this deal turned out to be very profitable. That said, it also caused a long court case. Wagner said he was due millions of dollars in unpaid bills. The argument got even more complicated when he said that his deal covered the Charlie's Angels movies that came out in 2000 and 2003. He lost in the end because the court said the original deal did not cover the movies. This case showed how good Wagner was at negotiating and how willing he was to fight for his rights, no matter what happened. Wagner had an amazing ability to change and adapt in the last few years of his work. As number 2 in the Austin Powers movie series, he became a fan favorite, Dr. Evil's loyal and witty partner. This funny part brought him to the attention of a younger audience and showed how versatile he was as an actor. The series was a huge hit, making more than $676 million around the world. He also had new success on TV, with recurring parts in shows like NCIS and Two and a Half Men. Fans loved him again when he played Anthony Donazzo Sr. on NCIS from 2010 to 2019. Wagner kept working and being important at an age when many artists slowed down. Pieces of My Heart, his autobiography, came out in 2008 and became a big hit. It gave readers a more in-depth look at his life and work. His talent and toughness are shown by how he can keep improving as an actor and keep connecting with viewers. Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood met when Wagner, who was 27 years old at the time, met Wood, who was 18 years old. Their love story began in 1956. Wood and Wagner met for the first time when Wood was only 10 years old on a movie studio lot. Wagner was already a rising Hollywood star. Natalie was so interested in him when she was young that she told her mom she would marry him one day. After many years, on her 18th birthday, they ran into each other again. Wagner's publicist set up a date for them for marketing purposes, but it quickly turned into a real relationship. Wagner was interested in Natalie's beauty and energy, and she liked his class and charm. The couple became a stylish sight at Hollywood events, and it was clear that they were meant to be together. After going out for 18 months, Wagner made a big proposal in December 1957. A romantic meal at a restaurant in Beverly Hills was the setting for his proposal. He put the ring in Natalie's champagne glass. She happily accepted right away. They got married in Las Vegas on December 28, 1957, just 1 year after they met. Nicole, who was only 19, wore a simple lace dress, and Wagner looked great in a dark suit. The honeymoon they had was like something out of a movie. They took a boat through the Florida Keys, which showed how much they both loved the water. Once they got back to Beverly Hills, they moved into a fancy house and became one of the most admired couples in Hollywood. In the beginning of their marriage, they went to a lot of fancy parties, walked the red carpet, and even worked together on projects. In 1960, they were both in All the Fine Young Cannibals, which showed how well they got along on screen, even though the movie didn't get good reviews. But there were cracks showing behind the scenes. Natalie's acting career was on the rise. She had lead parts in Splendor in the Grass and West Side Story, which earned her praise from critics and nominations for an Academy Award. Wagner's work went in a steady direction, but not as quickly as his wife's. This mismatch caused problems, and Wagner felt like he was being overshadowed. Natalie is having a hard time with how quickly she has grown as a person and as an actor. The couple's age gap, which didn't seem to matter at first, started to make them feel farther apart. Natalie was still finding herself and pushing the limits of her skill when she got married. She was just out of her teens at the time. Wagner, who was in his 30s at the time, was more settled and focused on staying stable. When 1961 came around, their relationship was over. They told everyone they were splitting up on June 20th, 1961, and their divorce was completed in April 1962. The end of what seemed like a perfect relationship shocked Hollywood. There were many rumors about why they broke up. Some said it was because she was cheating on him, but the couple openly said it was because of the stress of their careers and the difficulties of being famous. Natalie went on to date star Warren Beatty after they got divorced. Wagner went to Europe to find peace and later married actress Marion Marshall. Their lives took different turns for almost 10 years. Then, by chance, they met again in 1971. They ran into each other again at a party, and the old spark was kindled again. They started going out together again, and by July 1972, they were married again. This time, the wedding was on a boat off the coast of Malibu, a good place for two sea lovers to be. Having grown up and learned from their first marriage, they felt stronger in their second one. They were happy with their new family. Natalie welcomed Caddy, Wagner's daughter, into the family, and Natasha, Natalie's daughter, became Wagner's stepdaughter. In 1974, they had their own girl, Courtney, who made their family complete. Their love story seemed to have a happy finish for almost 10 years. Natalie Wood and her husband Robert Wagner planned a quiet Thanksgiving weekend in November 1981. Nicholas Walken, who plays Natalie Wood, and Dennis Davern, who is the captain of the boat Splendor, joined them. Santa Catalina Island is a beautiful place off the coast of California. The plan was to sail there and rest for a few days. The day began like any other holiday. When they got to Catalina Island, they landed in a small town called Two Harbors. They talked, looked around, and enjoyed the views all day. By the evening, they were having dinner at Doug's Harbor Reef, a nearby diner. Later, People who saw the four said they all looked drunk. Natalie was notoriously afraid of water, and her blood alcohol level showed that she was legally too drunk to drive. The mood changed when they got back to the boat. Later, Robert Wagner said that he was jealous of Christopher Walken. Natalie and Walken became close while working on the movie Brainstorm, and people noticed how friendly they were with each other. People who were at the dinner said that Natalie and Walken seemed to be deeply involved in their talk, leaving Wagner feeling left out. When they got back to the boat, this anger erupted. Wagner and Walken got into a loud argument that people on boats nearby could hear. Wagner later said that Natalie's job was at stake in the fight. Walken told her to focus on acting, even if it meant she had to spend less time with her family. This idea made Wagner very angry. He said he smashed a wine bottle and yelled at Walken during the fight, accusing her of meddling in his marriage. Captain Dennis Davern, who was there too, told a different story about the night. His words about the fight between Wagner and Walken were very strong. He heard Wagner and Natalie fighting in their cabin. Davern also said that Wagner didn't call for help right away when Natalie went missing, and he even stopped Wagner from using the yacht searchlight. Natasha was not there after 11 p.m. He told her he thought she had gone ashore in the boat, even though she was afraid of water and would never have done this by herself. A woman on a nearby boat said she heard someone yelling, "Help me! Please help me!" Then I heard a man's voice say, "We're coming to get you." But this fact wasn't taken into account during the probe. Her body was found floating in the water in the morning, about a mile from the boat. She had on socks, a nightgown, and a red jacket. The boat was found close by, stuck on the shore. Her body was found with cuts and bruises on her arms, legs, and mouth. A police report said she drowned when she slipped while trying to get into the boat. It was easy to do the study. The police decided that she died by accident and closed the case the next day. But a lot of people thought it was rushed. Not enough questions were asked of witnesses. Evidence on the boat wasn't gathered correctly, and important details were missed, such as Natalie's bruises. These gaps led to a lot of questions and ideas about what really happened that night over time. Natalie Wood's death was 30 years ago in 2011. In 2011, shocking new claims brought the story back into the public eye. Dennis Davern, who was in charge of the yacht Splendor, went on TV and admitted that he had lied to the cops in 1981. He said that Natalie's husband, Robert Wagner, had something to do with her death. Davern said that not telling the truth before was a very bad thing he had done. He also said that Wagner had told him not to use searchlights or call for help the night Natalie went missing. Everyone was interested in this statement, which made them wonder what really happened. The case not only got more attention, but new proof was also found. Police found Natalie's body with bruises that had not been explained. Her arms, knees, neck, and even face were all marked. An officer said it looked like someone had hurt her. She died because of this, so her death record was changed in 2012. It wasn't said anymore that she drowned by accident. Instead, the report said she died of drowning and other unknown causes. Because of this change, there were still a lot of questions about how Natalie got into the water. Wiener was named a person of interest in Natalie's death by the police in 2018. So, they thought he might know something important about what happened. The police said that Wagner's story about what happened had changed over time. They also asked him why he didn't do more right away to find Natalie. One officer said, "It doesn't make sense what he did." Wagner has always denied being engaged, even though he is now in his 90s. His spokesman said the claims were disgusting, and said that some people were taking advantage of a terrible event. Wagner told the police that he had helped them in the past and claimed that Natalie's death was an accident. But the fact that he wouldn't answer more questions made some people not trust him. After all these years, no one knows the whole truth about what happened to Natalie. When Natalie Wood died in a sad accident in 1981, things got hard for Robert Wagner. But the next year, in 1982, he met actor Jill St. John. They began dating on Valentine's Day, and even though everyone was watching, their relationship got stronger. They were together for 8 years before they got married in a small ceremony in 1990. They had been married 4 times before this one, but it was the one that they kept. They've been together for almost 34 years and have built a life of love and support. They worked on movies together too, with 6 projects over the years. Wagner didn't let disaster stop him from acting. Fans loved the heart-to-heart TV movies he did in the 1980s where he played Jonathan Hartigan. Some of his other parts were more serious, like in the 1986 TV movie There Must Be a Pony. Even more work came Wagner's way in the 1990s and 2000s. He was in movies like Wild Things, 1998, and Dragon, The Bruce Lee Story, 1993. In a famous 1997 episode of Seinfeld, he played Dr. Abbott. He was also in a number of hit TV shows. He became well known to younger people in the 2000s when he played Teddy Leopold on 2.5 Men. Many people knew him best for his part as Anthony DiNozzo, Sr. on NCIS, who was the father of Michael Weatherly's character. From 2010 to 2019, he was in 13 episodes, making a whole new group of fans happy. Wagner's family has always been the most important thing in his life. It was up to him to raise their girls, Courtney and Natasha, as well as his daughter Katie from a previous marriage after Natalie Wood died. Natasha, who called him Daddy Wagner, told him how much his love and care helped her get through the death of her mother. She wrote in her autobiography, "More than love, that their love got stronger because he had to be both parents." He also thinks the same thing about Natasha and calls her a light in his life. The 2020 HBO documentary Natalie Wood, What Remains Behind, which Natasha directed, showed how close they were. Beethoven was also happy to be a grandfather. Even more love has come into his life through Katie's boy Riley, born in 2006, and Natasha's daughter Clover, born in 2012. His family has been there for him through all of life's ups and downs. Robert Wagner is having one of the worst times of his life right now. He is 94 years old. It came out in 2023 that he had dementia. Fans who had loved him for decades were crushed by the news. He was still playing a few years ago, and he even showed up on NCIS in 2019. But because of his illness, he has had to stop being public and focus on his health. Jill St. John, his wife, has been with him the whole time. After being married for more than 33 years, Jill has become his main provider. Friends say Robert still thinks about his life and work from time to time, but these times aren't happening as often as they used to. Jill is 83 years old and is also having health issues. She was in a bad skiing accident in Aspen in 2022. She broke her hip and had to have surgery and heal for months. This wasn't the first time Jill had health problems. There was skin cancer in her in 2021. At first, she kept it quiet, but later she talked about it to urge other people to get regular skin checks. Jill has been strong through everything. She still takes care of Robert and runs their life together, even though she sometimes uses a wheelchair. Their daughter Courtney Wagner has also had a hard time. She is 49 years old now, but she has had a problem with drugs for more than 20 years. It all began when her fiancé died in a motorbike accident in the late 1990s. She went downhill after this loss and started using drugs. Courtney was caught in 2012 for having cocaine and heroin on her. She has been to rehab a lot of times, but it's been hard for her to stay clean. Robert begged her to try again in 2021 and gave her all the help she needed. Courtney has sadly refused help, which has been very hard for her father, who is getting older. Robert and Jill have been living in Aspen, Colorado for the past few years, instead of Hollywood. They bought the house in the late 1990s to use as a vacation home, but now they live there all the time. With a view of the mountains, their home is in a peaceful and lovely neighborhood. They can also get medical help there for their health needs. Robert has found it helpful to be in a quiet place as he deals with his memory. Before they had health problems, they liked being a part of the Aspen community, going to events, and being outside. They have a lot less going on these days. They stay at home and spend their days getting medical care, going to rehab, and doing simple things. Robert likes to watch old movies, especially ones that he was in. These movies can sometimes bring back good times. Even though she is sick herself, Jill takes care of him and makes sure everything goes smoothly. Their kids and grandchildren come to visit often, which makes them happy, making sure they stay in touch with their families.